What if the greatest love of your life is not searching for perfection? What if this person is searching for the soul hidden beneath the masks you wear every day? And when they find that soul, they will not treat you as an option, a convenience, or a passing fascination. They will place you upon a sacred altar within their heart, not as an idol to worship, but as a presence to honor. Most people spend their lives chasing attention. Few ever experience reverence. There is a profound difference between being desired and being deeply seen. Desire can vanish with circumstance. Attention can be stolen by novelty. Most people spend years trying to become attractive, admired, or desired, yet very few understand that the deepest form of love is not built upon any of these things. Attraction may capture attention, admiration may create fascination, and desire may generate excitement. But sacred love emerges from a much deeper psychological reality. It begins when one person recognizes another beyond appearances, achievements, and social roles. Carl Jung believed that human beings are driven by forces within the unconscious that seek meaning, wholeness, and genuine connection. Because of this, the heart is often moved not by perfection, but by authenticity. When someone encounters a person who lives in alignment with their true nature, they experience something rare. Instead of seeing merely a collection of traits, they begin to perceive a deeper essence. They notice the courage behind past struggles, the wisdom gained through suffering, and the strength hidden beneath vulnerability. This recognition creates a feeling that transcends ordinary attraction. The person is no longer viewed as a temporary source of pleasure or validation. They become someone worthy of profound respect. Jung often emphasized that every individual wears a persona, a social mask designed to gain acceptance and function within society. While the persona serves a purpose, genuine intimacy cannot develop if people remain trapped behind it. Sacred recognition occurs when someone sees beyond that mask. They perceive the authentic self that exists beneath social performances and external expectations. Such moments can feel powerful because they satisfy a deep psychological need to be truly understood. This kind of connection is also closely related to self-awareness. Individuals who have confronted their own fears, insecurities, and shadow aspects tend to recognize depth in others. They are less interested in superficial perfection because they understand the complexity of human nature. Rather than expecting flawlessness, they value honesty, emotional maturity, and authenticity. Their respect grows not because another person appears perfect, but because they demonstrate the courage to be real. As this respect deepens, the relationship acquires a sacred quality. The other person is treated with care, dignity, and appreciation. Their thoughts, feelings, and presence become meaningful. They are not placed on a pedestal because of fantasy or illusion, but because they embody qualities that resonate with something profound within the observer's psyche. The connection becomes rooted in recognition rather than projection, understanding rather than possession, and reverence rather than mere attraction. The experience of being chosen carries immense psychological significance because it touches one of the deepest desires within the human soul, the desire to feel that one's existence truly matters. From childhood onward, people seek evidence that they are seen, valued, and understood. Yet many forms of recognition remain superficial. A person may be praised for achievements, appearance, intelligence, or social status, while still feeling profoundly unseen. What creates a transformative experience is not simply being selected from among others, but being recognized for qualities that exist beneath the surface. Carl Jung understood that human beings are driven by unconscious forces that shape their relationships and perceptions. According to his perspective, every individual carries hidden dimensions waiting to be acknowledged. These dimensions include unrealized potential, emotional depth, creative energy, and aspects of the personality that remain concealed from ordinary awareness. When another person recognizes these deeper qualities, a powerful psychological event occurs. It feels as though something dormant has finally been awakened and brought into the light. This is why genuine selection feels different from ordinary attraction. Attraction may arise from external characteristics, but meaningful recognition involves perceiving the inner reality of another human being. The individual feels understood not only for what they present to the world, but also for who they truly are beneath social expectations and protective masks. Such recognition creates a sense of validation that reaches far beyond the ego. It speaks directly to the deeper self. The unconscious mind interprets this experience as significant because it reflects an archetypal pattern found throughout human history. In myths, stories, and spiritual traditions, the chosen individual often undergoes a transformation after being recognized by a wise guide, a divine force, or a meaningful companion. Symbolically, being chosen represents the discovery of hidden value. It suggests that something precious exists within a person that deserves acknowledgement and development. However, the psychological meaning of being chosen becomes distorted when individuals seek constant external validation. If self-worth depends entirely upon another person's approval, the relationship can become unhealthy. Jung emphasized the importance of developing an internal sense of value. The healthiest form of recognition occurs when another person confirms qualities that already exist rather than creating them. Their appreciation becomes a reflection of truth rather than a substitute for self-esteem. When someone chooses you from a place of deep awareness, they are responding to something authentic within your character. They recognize resilience where others saw weakness, wisdom where others saw silence, and depth where others noticed only ordinary qualities. Their choice becomes meaningful because it emerges from understanding rather than impulse. In that moment, the relationship transcends simple preference and enters the realm of profound psychological significance. One of the most important distinctions in human relationships is the difference between idealization and genuine devotion. At first glance, the two may appear similar because both involve admiration, emotional intensity, and a strong focus on another person. Yet beneath the surface, they arise from entirely different psychological processes. Carl Jung viewed many relationship struggles as the result of projection, a phenomenon in which individuals unconsciously place their own hopes, desires, and hidden aspects of themselves onto another person. This projection often creates the illusion of love when, in reality, the individual is relating more to a fantasy than to the actual person standing before them. Idealization begins when someone sees another person not as they truly are, but as they wish them to be. The admired individual becomes a symbol of perfection, possessing qualities that seem almost superhuman. Their flaws are ignored, their weaknesses are minimized, and their humanity is overlooked. Because the relationship is built upon imagination rather than reality, it often feels exciting and intoxicating. The person doing the idealizing experiences intense emotions because they are interacting with a dream that exists largely within their own psyche. Jung believed that this process frequently occurs when unconscious elements of the personality remain undeveloped. Individuals project hidden strengths, wisdom, beauty, or meaning onto another person because they have not yet recognized these qualities within themselves. The admired figure becomes a screen upon which unconscious desires are displayed. While this may create powerful feelings, it is inherently unstable. Eventually, reality emerges, imperfections become visible, and disappointment follows. The relationship suffers because it was never grounded in genuine understanding. Genuine devotion develops through a very different path. Instead of denying imperfections, it acknowledges them openly. A devoted person sees strengths and weaknesses, virtues and limitations, successes and failures. Yet their respect remains intact because it is rooted in reality. They are not attached to an illusion of perfection. They appreciate the whole person, including the complexities that make them human. This form of devotion requires psychological maturity. It demands the ability to separate projection from perception and fantasy from truth. Rather than seeking an ideal figure who fulfills every emotional need, the devoted individual develops a realistic appreciation for another person's character and essence. They recognize growth, resilience, integrity, and authenticity. Their admiration emerges not because the other person is flawless, but because they embody qualities worthy of respect. As devotion deepens, it becomes increasingly stable. Challenges do not immediately destroy it because it was never dependent upon perfection in the first place. The connection is sustained by understanding rather than fantasy, by conscious appreciation rather than unconscious projection, and by a willingness to honor the reality of another human being in all of its depth and complexity. Throughout human history, certain figures have appeared repeatedly in myths, legends, religious traditions, and dreams. These figures possess a mysterious quality that seems to transcend ordinary human experience. Carl Jung referred to such recurring patterns as archetypes, universal images that emerge from the collective unconscious and shape the way people perceive themselves and others. Among the most powerful of these patterns is the archetype of the sacred beloved, a symbolic figure who embodies meaning, beauty, transformation, and profound emotional significance. The sacred beloved is not merely a romantic partner. Psychologically, this figure represents the deep longing within the human soul to encounter something that awakens hidden dimensions of the self. When individuals meet someone who strongly activates this archetype, they often feel an unusual sense of connection that is difficult to explain logically. The person seems familiar despite being newly encountered. Their presence evokes powerful emotions, inspiration, and a feeling that something important is unfolding beneath the surface of ordinary life. Jung believed that such experiences are connected to unconscious projections. Hidden aspects of the psyche seek expression and are often projected onto significant individuals. As a result, the sacred beloved may initially appear larger than life. The observer perceives extraordinary wisdom, beauty, strength, or meaning in the other person because unconscious qualities are being reflected outward. This is why certain relationships can feel destined or transformative. The individual is not only responding to another person but also to deeper psychological forces operating within the unconscious mind. However, the archetype contains both potential and danger. When people become trapped in projection, they may lose contact with reality. They begin relating to an imagined figure rather than the actual human being before them. Expectations become unrealistic, and disappointment eventually follows when ordinary human imperfections emerge. Jung emphasized that psychological growth requires withdrawing these projections and recognizing that the qualities attributed to the beloved often originate within one's own psyche. When this process occurs successfully, the relationship becomes more authentic. The sacred beloved is no longer viewed as a flawless ideal, but as a real person who possesses both strengths and limitations. Yet the sense of significance does not disappear. Instead, it deepens. The connection becomes grounded in understanding rather than fantasy and appreciation rather than illusion. The archetype of the sacred beloved ultimately points toward personal transformation. It encourages individuals to discover within themselves the qualities they seek in others. The admiration, inspiration, and reverence experienced in such relationships become invitations to greater self-awareness. Through this process, love evolves beyond simple attraction and becomes a pathway towards psychological wholeness, revealing dimensions of the self that might otherwise remain hidden within the depths of the unconscious. Carl Jung believed that one of the greatest obstacles to meaningful relationships is the refusal to confront the shadow. The shadow consists of all the aspects of the personality that an individual rejects, suppresses, denies, or hides from conscious awareness. These qualities may include fear, jealousy, anger, insecurity, selfishness, vulnerability, or even positive traits that have been discouraged by family, culture, or personal experiences. Although people often imagine the shadow as something dark and negative, Jung understood it as a natural and unavoidable part of human psychology. The shadow plays a powerful role in intimate relationships because close connections tend to expose what remains hidden. In the early stages of attraction, people usually present the most acceptable versions of themselves. They emphasize strengths, highlight desirable qualities, and attempt to create a favorable impression. Yet, as emotional intimacy develops, the carefully maintained persona begins to weaken. The deeper layers of the personality gradually emerge, revealing emotions, patterns, and wounds that were previously concealed. This process can feel uncomfortable because relationships often become mirrors. A partner may unknowingly reflect qualities that an individual has spent years avoiding. For example, a person who denies feelings of insecurity may become highly sensitive to criticism. Someone who suppresses anger may react strongly when confronted with conflict. These reactions are not caused solely by the other person. They are often signs that the shadow is demanding recognition. Jung observed that many relationship conflicts arise from projection. Instead of acknowledging disowned qualities within themselves, people unconsciously attribute those qualities to others. They accuse, judge, or criticize traits that actually exist within their own shadow. As a result, they become trapped in recurring patterns of misunderstanding and disappointment. The relationship suffers because energy is spent fighting unconscious projections rather than pursuing genuine understanding. However, the shadow also contains tremendous potential for growth. When individuals become willing to examine their reactions honestly, relationships transform into opportunities for self-discovery. Moments of jealousy reveal hidden fears. Feelings of resentment uncover unmet needs. Emotional triggers expose unresolved wounds. Each challenge becomes an invitation to greater awareness rather than a reason for blame. The integration of the shadow leads to deeper emotional maturity. Individuals become less defensive because they no longer need to maintain an image of perfection. They accept their complexity and recognize that every human being possesses both strengths and weaknesses. This acceptance creates compassion, not only for themselves but also for those they love. As shadow integration progresses, relationships become more authentic. There is less need for masks, less fear of imperfection, and less dependence on unrealistic expectations. Love grows stronger because it is no longer based on illusion. It becomes rooted in truth, self-awareness, and the courage to embrace every dimension of the human psyche. Emotional maturity and conscious partnership represent some of the highest expressions of psychological development within a relationship. Carl Jung believed that many people enter relationships not because they have achieved inner wholeness, but because they hope another person will complete what feels missing inside themselves. While this desire is understandable, it often creates dependency, unrealistic expectations, and recurring disappointment. A conscious partnership begins when two individuals recognize that personal growth remains their own responsibility, even while they share their lives with one another. Emotional maturity is not the absence of strong feelings. It is the ability to experience emotions without becoming completely controlled by them. Mature individuals understand that anger, fear, sadness, and insecurity are natural parts of human experience. Instead of denying these emotions or projecting them onto others, they take responsibility for understanding and managing them. This self-awareness creates stability within relationships because conflicts are approached with reflection rather than impulsive reaction. Jung emphasized the importance of individuation, the lifelong process of becoming a whole and authentic person. Individuals who engage in this process develop a stronger connection with their inner world. They become aware of their strengths, weaknesses, desires, fears, and unconscious patterns. As a result, they are less likely to seek constant validation from a partner because their sense of worth is not entirely dependent upon external approval. They enter relationships from a position of psychological strength rather than emotional deficiency. A conscious partnership is built upon mutual recognition rather than possession. Each person respects the individuality of the other while maintaining a meaningful connection. Instead of attempting to control, change, or dominate one another, they encourage personal growth and self-discovery. This creates an atmosphere of freedom where both individuals can evolve without fear of losing the relationship. Love becomes an expression of respect rather than ownership. Such partnerships also require honest communication. Emotional maturity allows individuals to express needs, concerns, and vulnerabilities openly. Rather than hiding behind defensive behaviors or manipulative strategies, they speak with sincerity and listen with genuine curiosity. This openness strengthens trust because both people feel seen and understood. Difficult conversations become opportunities for deeper connection instead of threats to the relationship. Another essential aspect of conscious partnership is the acceptance of imperfection. Mature individuals understand that no person can fulfill every desire or eliminate every challenge. They abandon unrealistic fantasies and embrace reality. This acceptance does not diminish love, it deepens it. By recognizing both strengths and limitations, they develop a form of appreciation grounded in truth. As emotional maturity grows, relationships become less focused on temporary emotional fluctuations and more focused on shared values, mutual respect, and authentic connection. The partnership evolves into a space where both individuals support each other's psychological growth, encouraging greater awareness, responsibility, and understanding throughout the journey they share together. Becoming someone worthy of deep reverence is not about achieving perfection, gaining status, or impressing others with extraordinary accomplishments. Carl Jung's psychological perspective suggests that true worth emerges from the process of becoming whole. Many people spend their lives attempting to earn love through external achievements, believing that admiration will come once they become successful enough, attractive enough, or accomplished enough. Yet, genuine reverence is rarely inspired by appearances alone. It arises when an individual develops a strong connection to their authentic self and lives in accordance with deeper truths. Jung believed that every person possesses a unique potential that seeks expression throughout life. This potential cannot fully emerge when individuals are consumed by social expectations or trapped behind carefully constructed personas. The persona serves an important function by helping people navigate society, but when it becomes the entire identity, authentic growth is restricted. A person becomes worthy of profound respect when they possess the courage to move beyond social masks and explore the deeper dimensions of their character. This journey requires self-awareness. Individuals must become willing to examine their motivations, fears, desires, and unconscious patterns. Such examination is not always comfortable because it often reveals aspects of the personality that have been ignored or denied. Jung referred to these hidden elements as the shadow. Rather than rejecting these qualities, psychological growth involves acknowledging and integrating them. A person who has confronted their shadow develops a depth that others instinctively recognize. Their confidence is no longer based on maintaining an image of perfection, but on accepting the complexity of their humanity. Integrity also plays a crucial role in inspiring reverence. Integrity means living in alignment with one's values, even when doing so requires sacrifice or courage. People naturally respect individuals whose actions consistently reflect their principles. This consistency creates trust because it demonstrates authenticity. Others sense that such a person is guided by something deeper than convenience, approval, or temporary gain. Another important element is resilience. Life inevitably brings disappointment, loss, failure, and uncertainty. Those who endure these experiences without becoming bitter often develop wisdom and emotional depth. Their struggles refine rather than destroy them. Jung understood suffering as a potential catalyst for transformation, capable of revealing strengths and insights that remain hidden during easier periods of life. The individual who emerges from hardship with greater understanding often carries a quiet strength that commands respect. Deep reverence is also connected to presence. People who are fully engaged with life, attentive to others, and grounded in self-awareness create a powerful impression. They do not constantly seek validation because they possess an inner sense of value. Their worth is expressed through authenticity, wisdom, compassion, and emotional maturity. These qualities inspire admiration not because they demand attention, but because they reflect a level of psychological development that many people unconsciously recognize and appreciate.